And welcome back to Live with Tim O'Shea. This is episode number 7. We're live. We're not live, but we are back, and we are finally live. I know it's been a little bit of time between this episode and the last episode, so I apologize for that. Been moving around, been dealing with some stuff. Obviously, a new studio here. It's only temporary. I moved apartments, so this is what we're working with right now. Some of the stuff I brought over from the last studio, but we'll find a permanent place to set up down the road. But this is going to be it for a couple of months. So going back to the podcast today, we have a really exciting interview for you guys. Micah Leon, he was a quarterback at North Carolina State, UConn, and Florida. He just got done with a rookie minicamp for the Miami Dolphins. Really cool guy, good friend of mine. So we're going to have him on. So we're going to jump right into it. Here's my interview with Micah Leon, quarterback, University of Florida. All right, welcome back to Live with Tim O'Shea. We have a special guest here today from Boca Raton High School, where he led his team to the 3A Florida State Championship. He was invited to the Nike Opening Regional Elite Quarterback Camp in high school. He was the Marine Corps Player of the Game. Played college football for North Carolina State, the University of Connecticut, and the University of Florida. Most recently, he was invited to the Miami Dolphins rookie minicamp, welcoming my friend to the podcast, Micah Leon. What's up, man? How you doing?
What's going on, Tim? Good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. So, I've had some of our former teammates on the podcast, Ryan Vandermark, Jackson Mitchell, some of those guys. And, those guys were, highly touted prospects coming out of high school. Your story, you've kind of come from the bottom. Your journey was a little bit harder. So I want to hear about, your recruitment process in high school and why you decided to walk on to North Carolina State out of high school.
Yeah, okay. So it's like you said, it's actually pretty slim, so it'd be a short story. I was playing at American Heritage pretty much from the time I was in middle school all the way into like high school, my junior year. I met a guy named Eric Kresser who kind of taught me how to play quarterback, kind of really, advanced me in that way. So I was able to throw, I was actually able to make reads, stuff like that. So I actually progressed as a quarterback. And he quickly was like, hey, you have to get on the field somewhere. Like that's the main driver behind any recruitment. So I transferred from American Heritage. I went to Boca High, like you said. I spent my last year there. So I was kind of like a late bloomer, if you will, and spent my senior year at Boca High. That's kind of where I guess you could say college stuff started, actually happening. I was reached out to by a few schools. I'd done camps, which, like you said, the Nike Opening thing. When I had done the Nike Opening, I kind of had got, a little more recruitment, a little more, eyes on me, I guess you could say. And the guy I mentioned, Eric Kresser, he was good friends with D-line coach at NC State at the time. So he kind of put in a good word with me, or for me, I should say. And they brought me up on a visit. They offered me a preferred walk-on spot. And because I didn't really have a lot at the time, it seemed like, hey, this is definitely going to be the best opportunity, I should say. And the day, actually, I shouldn't say the day, probably leading up to my time actually leaving for NC State, whatever that last summer was, I'd done a camp at FAU. It was like a satellite camp. A couple of schools were there. I was there. It's funny. Joe Milton, who's now with the Patriots, Joe Milton's at this camp. He was committed to Michigan at the time. So Jim Harbaugh's at the camp. They kind of pair guys up. So I got paired up with him, being an older guy. So I spent basically the whole camp with him and Jim Harbaugh. And Jim Harbaugh can be kind of a character, so it was an interesting time. But anyways, out of that camp, Oregon kind of came in the picture really, really late. And they had said, hey, we can probably do the same thing NC State's doing, offer your preferred walk-on spot just because it's so late in the process. And I kind of had my heart set on NC State. I had my shirts. I had the idea of Raleigh. So I went with NC State. And I always kind of thought, what would happen if I had gone to Oregon instead. And I'm not sure if Herbert was still there at the time or whatever maybe he was coming out at the time. But I remember just being like, man, that could have been a cool opportunity. But, since that's 7 years ago now, it's kind of in the past. So, but it was a fun time, at least. I still enjoyed it.
I know. I feel like a lot of football players, and not even football players, just recruits in any sport, you kind of have that what if, like, what if I went to this school? What if I went here? And your whole life would be completely different.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. You never know.
You never know, yeah.
Yeah. So, but it is kind of funny to think about that. And so, you walked on to NC State and you had a walk-on opportunity at Oregon as well. Usually when you have a walk-on, and I've been learning this through Road to Glory, in college football 25 right now. Usually you
Exactly.
have some offers from some maybe non-power five schools. Did you have any offers from some non-power
Right.
schools?
Boy, I mean, thinking back now, there's probably like I probably got a couple of those emails like, "Hey, we want to offer you this," like, but some of those schools you just kind of push out. Maybe I had some like the D2 or like, "Hey, we can get you some money." Maybe some of the FCS schools had reached out late. Like I said, everything kind of had happened late. Once NC State kind of came in the picture, I was set on that. Anything that came in was just like, "Hey, if it's not better than that, I'm not even giving my time." Maybe I had two or three. That never made it onto 24/7 Sports, I think. So I was always just like committed to NC State or walked on NC State, however they put it. But yeah, nothing serious. So
I'm not gonna lie, I looked up your name 24/7 Sports. Nothing did come up, unfortunately. I'm sorry. Sorry to hear
yeah, there's nothing there. Sure, it's okay.
that. But when you did get to NC State, now did when you went to NC State, did you think that that was like a stepping stone to get to like an even higher Power Five school, or was that like gonna be it? Like you were fell in love with the Wolfpack?
It's actually interesting. I knew nothing about NC State before I had gone there. I remember my coach had told me about NC State, and I was like, I got to go look up what this school even looks like, what their mascot is, where they are, everything like that. Um, when I got there, I kind of knew a little bit what was going on. I knew a little bit of the situation as far as quarterbacks. They had a starter at the time. He was an older guy. So I wasn't coming in to like compete for the spot. I more just wanted to see, where I was at. I kind of made this analogy with somebody recently as far as the NFL minicamp stuff, and we can get into that a little bit. But I wanted to always see where I was at, like where was I lacking? Where was I proficient? Where are some things that I did well that other guys maybe didn't do as well? So going to NC State was just I didn't know what it was going to be. Walking on is never easy, so I kind of treated it as like, well, I'm going to college. I have to see what that's like. I'm walking on at college football. I got to see what that's like. But just kind of getting a lay of the land and I spent 2 years there, so I got a good lay of the land. I could say of what college football was like.
Yeah, you enjoyed your time as a backup quarterback for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, exactly.
um, so that NC State team, dude, that team was stacked. The 2017 team I was looking at the roster, dude. Jacoby Myers,
Yeah,
BJ Hill, Garrett Bradbury, AJ Cole, Bradley Chubb, who
yeah,
on the Dolphins,
mhm,
Naeem Hines. And then I read an article. It said that you actually hosted Sam Howell. Is that true?
yeah. Yeah, so that was oh, I forgot I did talk about that. Okay, so just to your point, that was and this is like my freshman year. And so like you don't really know what you have until it's not there and you're with like other guys. Cause I would look back at that freshman year and I was like, my gosh, man, we had, all four of our starting D linemen got drafted. And then, we had two guys like Jacoby Myers and Jalen Samuels, who I don't know if he's still playing, but really good receivers, played really well. Almost all those receivers were so super talented. But when my eyes, I was like, oh, this is what college football is. Everybody's like this. You go to any team, they're all legendary guys. And guys like Chubb, I mean, those guys, they're like, they're bigger than the team. They're their own person. Like, and not saying in a bad way. He's like that idol that everyone looks at. But a really cool experience to be with them and to even say, that, oh, I played for that team and could be with those guys. Um, but that was for sure. That's like that initial thing when you step into college that you're like, you want that, you want some, big names, but then you don't know what to expect, obviously, when you're with that. So.
Yeah, dude. Like those aren't just like, I mean, every team I feel like in Power Five, you had like a couple of guys that make it to the league. Like we had some guys that made it to the league at UConn, the year we were there.
Right. Right.
But like these are like like I have some of these guys on my fantasy team. Like
Exactly, exactly. So
it's
that's such
crazy.
big names. Yeah, it affects that. And to what you asked about the Sam Howell. So yeah, so my freshman, I guess it's maybe been changed a little bit over the time, but my freshman year, we had like they called it, it's like junior pack or something, like the day when all the juniors from high school would come in. And Sam Howell at the time was like, one of the highest recruits, a big Carolina kid. I think he was maybe committed to UNC at the time. Maybe he hadn't committed yet. So we bring him in for the junior day camp, and it's like me, Eli Drinkwitz, who's the OC at the time, and like maybe like our GA. And so we're running him through drills, stuff like that. I remember thinking, he doesn't really have the hype, but he's definitely like he can throw it well. He's definitely going to be like a growth guy. Whatever he goes to, he'll. You could tell he's just one of those guys. And that was 2017, and I was just making a comment to someone that where our article is from. I was like, man, I'm still in college, and he's going into like his second or third year. So just pretty crazy.
And he ended up going to UNC.
Right. Right. So maybe I played a part. I don't know.
um, and so yeah, that's a crazy story. I read that in one of the articles, and now he's starting for the Commanders right now. Or no, he's in
Yeah.
Seattle. He's in Seattle.
Oh yeah, he got traded. Yeah, he's in Seattle.
Yeah. But did you ever think that you were going to transfer? And why? What went into that decision to transfer from North Carolina to UConn?
Yeah, so I guess after my second year at NC State, I had a similar conversation with that same quarterback coach, actually, kind of just saying, where's my end goal? Is my end goal just to be in college as a quarterback? Is my end goal in the NFL? Where do I evaluate myself? So after thinking about it a lot and this is back right when the portal had just started. So this was still an early process. Like
Yeah.
no one really knew what the portal had. So I had entered the transfer portal after, I don't want to skip over this, but talking to my coaches, asking, saying, what's my viability here? Where do I fall in the depth chart? Those kind of questions, which I guess every player kind of has at some point. And at the time, I was sitting behind two guys who don't need to be named. They're both doing well. And then me and Devin Leary we're like vying for that third spot. Leary was still young, just kind of getting his feet under him. Obviously, a super talented player. When he came as a freshman, like you knew almost immediately, like, hey, this guy's got it. Like he can throw the ball, like nobody's business. But he was just growing at the time, still a freshman. And I was kind of fighting with him over spring, just going for like that third string spot. And I realized at the time, well, I don't want to be in a fall camp, and then I'm kind of fighting for a third string spot, potentially lose it, and then I'm back at fourth. So I'd gone into the portal. UConn had reached out pretty quickly and offered me a visit. I went up, met the coaches, met Edsel, kind of saw where Stores was. That there's a whole aspect that people don't really understand of where Stores is in Connecticut, and that's it's not just an easy place. You don't just go to a main city and it's there. So, and I liked it, and Edsel offered me, and I felt like they wanted me there, and that's a big thing. So I ended up just committing, and it worked out. Yeah.
I remember reading, I think it was your offensive coordinator or your quarterbacks coach went to App State.
Yeah.
Was App State also on the table when you were in that transfer phase?
It was. So yeah, the guy had mentioned, Eli Drinkwitz. He left that second year, which kind of I should have mentioned. We had brought in a new OC after my second year at NC State, and that was going into my junior season. That junior season spring, I guess you could call it. I don't know how that really works out. But my second year, so it'd be my second spring. They had brought in a new OC, brings in new quarterbacks, how it happens at every place. And when Drink had left, when he went to App State, he also brought the GA, who I was close with. So we had been texting, kind of talking with each other, and he wanted me to come over just for an unofficial visit, see the school, meet with coach, kind of talk with him. And when I had gone there, this is actually before UConn had offered. I don't even know if I was in the portal yet. I was kind of probably in that little transition phase. And he had just said, hey, we have a starter. You can come in, and you'll be competing maybe for the backup spot, but we have a starter. He didn't want to give away the starting spot like that. So I said, I appreciated him obviously taking interest and offering that, whatever you want to call it. I don't even know if it was a true offer at the time, or kind of whatever it wasn't enough for me to be like, okay, I'm going to App State.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, I guess, kind of right before I had talked with UConn. So it quickly was off the table once UConn kind of came in the picture.
And what was your first like, because I don't know how much time you had spent in the Northeast prior to UConn, but what was your first like, I'm not in Florida anymore?
Yeah, that's boy. Probably, I mean, the winters, obviously, everyone knows Connecticut winter's crazy. I had woken up and there was like deer on campus, which I wasn't like, I wasn't not used to that, but I was like, man, this place is just, it's like something else. Something else is going on here. I mean, you quickly, once the winter starts and you're late into the season, you're starting to feel like cold, that's a whole different ball game. I probably didn't actually have that like, wow, welcome to like Connecticut feeling. Until that winter hit, because everything was kind of, you felt like fall camp. It felt like football. It felt like that, like that college atmosphere. But yeah, I mean, I actually loved UConn. I loved being there with like you guys, and that made it a lot of fun for me. So It's a good
Yeah, man,
membership.
that was a good time. People do not realize that Stores, Connecticut isn't really even like a town. It's just it's
Yeah,
just UConn. That's it.
yeah, it's the campus. Yeah.
Um, so were you offered or did you walk on to UConn?
I was offered, which I don't know if the article got right because I think it says I walked on at all three schools or walked
Yeah.
on three schools. But I had gotten an offer from Edsel on my visit, which is probably the first time that I've actually been sitting face to face with the head coach and him saying like the actual words of, so we want to offer you a scholarship. We do it how we do this and explaining, the details. And then walking out of that meeting and being like, wow, I just actually got, someone wants me that bad. They're going to offer me, a scholarship. So that was probably the first time. And that was obviously, that's what made UConn special in my mind. So,
Yeah, man. Our we got there the same time. I did not get the one-on-one with that soul. I said you could be on scout team, and I said, hell yeah, sign me up. Um, but yeah, dude. So from my perspective, when I got there, I'm a Connecticut kid. I grew up watching UConn, and I loved it. It was a dream come true to play, for UConn and be on the team. But prior to the last couple of years before I got there and we got there, they were not good. They were not good. They hadn't really established a quarterback.
yeah.
When I got there, I knew that you were like the NC State guy coming over. I'm like, okay, this is the guy. We go into camp. We go into camp. It's looking like you're the guy. You were performing. You were lights out. I mean, I remember we were talking about it in the tight end room. Like Mike is playing great. What happened was freak injury. Like what was it like one of the first days of camp? Like freak injury.
Third day of camp, I think.
Yep. I believe you threw it and you just landed on. Was it Jay Rose's back or
So
helmet?
Jay Rose
Yeah.
was blocking whoever that defensive end was and was blocked into me as I was throwing like a dig over the middle. And so my arm, once I got hit from that side, my arm just kept going with the ball and kind of with the throw in motion, and pulled my shoulder out of place and then popped it back in.
It
So yeah,
it was
yeah.
so freak. It was such a weird injury, and it was like it didn't even
Oh
look like that bad on camera. It just was one of those.
yeah. Yeah, and that's literally like that feeling of like, man, what was that? Is how I felt after I threw the ball. I was like, because I felt you always know when something's a little bit off. When it comes back to something's not sitting right. And it's one of those things you kind of do one of those like, shoulder rotations, like, okay, like I can still move my arm. It's not broken. It just kind of freaked me out a little bit. I had a little bit of scare. Give you that little shock sensation. It was only after I started throwing towards the end of that practice, I was like, boy, like this is really starting to get weird. I can't like if I throw the ball, I feel my shoulders moving, much further than it should, and I started noticing more pain, and that's kind of when I was like, okay, I'm having some issues now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that injury, a lot of people like don't know that that season could have went, a whole lot differently,
yeah, yeah, good.
and we had to play. I remember we had to play Jack Zergiotis.
Yep,
He was a true freshman going in there. I mean, he just got
yep,
thrown into the fire. We had a couple of freshman wide receivers, Cam Ross, Matt Drayton, who were really good too.
yep,
But it was just, we just couldn't put it together that year. We struggled that season.
yeah.
And then why was that injury so hard to come back from though? Because we kind of all thought that, he's going to recover. He was something weird. We knew it, but it just kind of the period kept extending, and obviously not your fault or anything. But why was
Yeah.
that so hard to come back from?
Yeah, so I think so the surgery what it was just we were just repairing the labrum, which for a lot of guys is pretty easy. If you're say I was say I'm Jackson Mitchell, I can do the repair, and then I'm pretty sure it's like 4 to 6 weeks. I can do that recovery time with little to no movement. And then once that period's over, as much as I can tolerate, I'm able to do. For myself, because I'm a thrower, I have to get a lot more rotation and a lot more. What was the word Caitlin would use? It was like pliability or something out of my shoulder that they couldn't just let it lock up. So by like week 2 after my surgery, I'm doing, I don't know if you guys would ever see, but I'd be in the training room with Caitlin stretching my shoulder over my head or pushing it down to try to gain rotation and gain movement. Range of motion, that's the word I'm looking for. But my range of motion had to be, what it is now. And so that extends it because it's not truly healing. Like if you could just let it heal and just sit, I just sat in my room for 4 to 6 weeks, I probably would have been, back to the field but because of my position, I have to have way more range of motion than tolerated for it. So that was annoying for me because I'd come out, I'd feel good, I'd watch practice and be like, boy, I wish I could just do something or be able to throw or help the team. But yeah, that definitely affected me a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. The mentality and the mental that like the negative effects on your mental health that it takes being so alone during that time when you're healing. And trust me, I know because
Yeah,
I just tore my ACL last season and trying to
yeah.
get back from it's terrible, man. You just feel like you're on an island. So like what was your mental health like during that time?
Yeah, so I always um it's kind of easier to say it this way. I looked at it as like it's like a part of that process. So some guys it was, you needed to show up to practice more, you needed to put more work in. You need to spend more time in the meeting room. And that's how you're going to become a great player. For me, I kind of looked at it as like, well, this is just a part of the journey. As quick as I can, I want to deal with this, but it was just another step in the process. And wherever I was going to end up, I was going to end up. But I wanted to treat it as that, where I was just looking at it as, how not how quick can I be done, but how efficient can I be with my time? Where can I add some things? Where do I need to pull back a little bit? But for me, I treated it as work. The mental health side of it, I guess you could call it, was just not being able to help guys in the field and talking with coaches. You can only go so far. There's only so much you can do to help. So when you're a quarterback and you're seeing things happen, or you're like, man, I wish I was out there for this play or that play, it affects you mentally because you're like, boy, because there's no way you can help. You can't do anything to help. So
Yeah, it sucks. And then it's kind of like, then you kind of, I don't know. For me, it just feels like I'm gonna try and like coach these guys up, but then after a
right,
while, you're just kind of like the guy who's like you don't even feel like you're really on the team at some points.
exactly.
And then you're gearing up, you're healing up, you're doing PT, working your ass off, you're gearing up for the 2020 season, and then all
Hmm.
of a sudden, UConn is the only team in the country to not play the 2020 season. What
Yeah.
what I was just on Steve Krajewski. I follow him on TikTok now. He's big playing video games. Sometimes he goes live. I was on his live the other day, and he was talking about how that decision really wasn't up to the players. Um,
Nope. And I'm fortunate he says that because then it's someone backing what I think I've said before in the past in some article or something like that. But yeah, it wasn't at all. We had brought a leadership council came into the meeting room and the decision was made prior to us even entering that room. So by the time we left, it was just we were told what was going on and that was pretty much it. So to not make a short story long, that we were told by AD and our head coach what would the hardships be if we even tried to have a season. And they were extensive in every detail we'd have to follow to try to even have a season. So we're by the end of it, we're like, okay, well, that's the decision you guys are making. We don't really have a choice. But yeah, once the news started to break that others weren't even following that anymore, that they were going to have a season, we were all like, okay, this is something's not right here.
you guys wanted to play.
Oh yeah, absolutely. After a full like off season of work, you geared everything into this momentum of like the season starting soon, game one's happening soon, and before fall camp even goes, we get told there's no season. You're like, well, yeah, all right, well, what's going on? What are we supposed to do? So
Yeah, and you were only one of three FBS teams. So like literally everybody else was
yeah,
playing. Everybody else.
yeah, literally everybody else.
Do you think that was because like I don't know, you guys they didn't feel confident in you guys? Like do you think there was something deeper behind that? You don't have to get into speculation, but
Yeah.
what that just doesn't seem right.
Um, there's a reason that I think probably could have been true, which I could tell you. I'll tell you off camera. Um, the the reason I'm guessing from the school side of things is because COVID was so exacerbated at the time, is the best way I could probably put it. Is just there was so much of as far as contact tracing and COVID-19 protocols that to add a football season onto that, especially with trying to get games set up and the everything that goes into all the details of a normal season with COVID added to that, I think it was just too much for them to make it make sense. So I think in their mind, they thought we would be the first team, and then the dominoes would fall and everyone would fall. Which at first they were right when the Big Ten said, "Oh, we're not having a season," and some conferences were thinking about it, before they had made a decision. I think they thought they're in the right. So I'll give them that credence. And then there's another reason, but that's for another time.
Yeah, I know what you're poking at here, but you know, they, but In their defense, Connecticut was one of the like strictest states on COVID. I will give them
Oh
that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
anyways, COVID happens, another year down the drain for you. But 5 years later, from when you first get to college, you make your
Mm.
debut versus Houston uh, in 2021. You go 10 for
Yep,
13, 62 yards. And then in the last 2 minutes, you get a season ending injury. You need foot
yep.
surgery. You're just like, the luck is not on your side here, man.
Yeah,
Did you
yeah.
think that your football career was over at that point?
Boy, that's a good question. Someone's asked me this similar question, and I didn't really have a good answer. I just talking about that Houston game, and I don't want to blow up every little detail. I don't know if it made it back to you. So I had torn my pec going into that year. So I had a torn pec that basically that entire season, and that's why Houston was. It was just like time for me to start playing because we had no one else. Steve had just gone down, and it was like we have no one else but you, Micah. So let's see what you can do. And so I was kind of battling my pec injury there. I didn't really have full throwing power. I was just trying to make things work and see if I could fit balls and stuff like that. Anyways, so I was treating that as like this might be my final game of college. And I remember talking to my parents and just kind of saying like, if I get in, great. Let me just see what I can do and try to have fun, try to enjoy it. But then breaking my foot right at the end there, it was like, wow, that's like, you spend all this time, you can't even finish it out. Like there's not even like a good like close. I can close this book and move on to the next thing. Um, but I actually, and just thinking about it now, I actually didn't think that it was over. I remember breaking my foot and I was, crying the whole night, basically talking to my parents, trying to figure out what was next. But for some reason, I still had a feeling like, oh, I can still play. If I come back from this, I can still play. And I was kind of looking at it more from the pec perspective because my foot didn't have a ton to do with my throwing. I was like, man, if my pec heals, I should be good to go. Like, I'm going to see if I can get back out there. So,
And that was just unfortunate. That was just terrible.
yeah.
Was Jake Drina in your quarterback room at that
He
year?
was, yeah, Jake Drina. He was a freshman that year. I think he joined us in the summer that year, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe actually he might have been like a true walk-on type and came during fall camp. I'm not sure when exactly he joined, but yeah, he was there for that season, and he was the fifth, I think, and final quarterback of that season
I think
who
he
who
played.
played.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
went
who
in.
played. He finished out that game. I don't even know if he did that badly. I think he went like 2 for 3 or something like that. He played pretty well, I think.
Yeah, Jake Drina. Yeah, I'm good friends with him. I played with him back in high school. There
Okay,
was a couple of Southington guys. Him, Jacob Flynn, Jay
yeah,
Rose, and then
Jake Flynn,
myself.
man. How about him? Well, Jay Rose. I was just talking to Jay Rose today. I need to text him soon. But Jake Flynn, man, he's a good player. You guys got some good guys, man.
Yeah, Southington High School, man. We just lost our coach though. He retired, so I hope.
Oh, well, that's a good ending though.
Yeah, man. Jacob Flynn, man. I love Jacob Flynn, dude. I
Yeah,
wish he got more PT. He was awesome.
me too. Me too. Quiet kid, but he played hard. He played hard and left it all out there. So
And I mean, if your season was over or if your career was over 10 and 13, those were your two numbers that you had, number 10 and number 13 on the Gators.
yeah, that's a good point.
All right, so you leave UConn, you get your degree, you're like, you don't know if it's over or not. Uh, you go back home to Florida, you get with a trainer, you're just trying to get healthy at this point. You're
Yep.
just your quality of life. You don't know football, but you're just quality of life, you're just trying to get right.
Right. Right.
Then Florida reaches out to you. How the hell did that happen?
Yeah. So I want to say I'm trying to figure out exactly the timeline of that. So I guess so. I had started in 2022. That was the start of my rehab. So 2022 to 2023, I didn't have any season there. So I was just rehabbing my foot. My pec was just starting to come back in the picture. I was able to throw. I could get out there. Late into that off season, right before fall camp was getting ready to start, I was sending out like I'd record my workouts. I'd go record anytime I went out to throw, and I'd send my workouts out to any coach that I could find their email for. So I had sent an email to Billy Napier with the help of my dad. My dad had some website at the time who had every coach's email. It kind of seemed a little like, backdoorish. But so I sent him a video. And just, by the grace of God, I get this email from one of their quarterback coaches, Ryan O'Hara, just saying, hey, we saw your tape. We'd like to just, reach out, see what you got, what you're interested in, which I kind of immediately was like, well, if they have any interest at all, I'm there. Like, it doesn't even matter what you have for me. You could have me, scout team player, whatever, and I'll just do that because I was like, it's an opportunity, and it's the Florida Gators, which is my dream school. Being a kid.
Yeah, I was about to say, growing up in Florida, that was at the team.
Oh yeah, completely. My families are Gators. My uncles both played there. I've been going to Gator games since I could walk and talk, and so that was always my dream school.
And how many years of eligibility did you have at that point?
So when they had initially reached out, I had 2 years of eligibility. So I had the 22 and the 23 season. So that was the big like iffy is like if I can get in for this season, I can spend at least one more year of my eligibility at the Florida Gators before my final year comes.
And I know that when you transferred to UConn, you left NC State because you didn't really, it was a crowded quarterback room. You went to UConn for that starting job. What were the expectations like going to Florida? Did you just want to be on the team? Were you just at this point, you're just like, I just hope I don't get fucking hurt?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, spot on because my mom, I remember coming to me when I first in the process when they had emailed me. It wasn't even like there was official. She was like, "Man, it would be super cool if you could just go and be a Florida Gator, even if you didn't even get to like dress out for games." And then it slowly became like, "Hey, imagine you could dress out for the game," and then that grows into something. So it was my expectations going in where I wanted to be a Florida Gator, in whatever capacity that meant. And then everything after that was just cherries on top. So
And so you finally make your debut for the Florida Gators. You went a year ago, you thought your career was over. You were just
oh
trying to
yeah,
walk and run again. And a
yeah,
couple years later, dude, you're making your debut for your favorite team of all time, the Florida Gators, in the swamp versus McNeese State. Like, take me through that moment, man.
yeah. So going into that week, I think the coach I had mentioned, Ryan O'Hara, we were going through just basic install stuff for the week, and we had talked. McNeese State, obviously, we were expecting to win. We are expecting it to not be that hard of a game. So if the score gets up, late in the game, it's going to be me and Max kind of vying for that backup spot, if you will. So we'd have some time. We'd have some time to play. So I got as many people from my family and my friends to come up for that game because I was like, hey, I actually have a shot to play here. Just try to come watch if you can. Anyways, so late in the game, I remember I think Nate had come up to me or maybe O'Hara come up to me and just said, hey, get warmed up. So you're going to be going in next drive. And man, the nerves hit you like a pound of bricks because it's like this is it, like time to go out and throw. But you quickly kind of realize, all right, it's just football. Like I'm just going out and playing football. There's no difference between this and practice or when I was a kid playing rec league. It's just it's at a higher level, it's at a higher, bigger stage. But so when I'm actually out there, and I remember how quiet it sounded in the stadium, even though there's there's still a good amount of people. It was just quiet, and I could kind of focus and play quarterback. So that part of it of actually playing quarterback and then wearing the uniform, and it was not just for some scout team or it wasn't for one-on-ones in some team period or something like that. So I enjoyed that amount of actually being able to play quarterback to whatever capacity that was.
What do you think, the 8-year-old Micah would say to that guy?
I think if you could take out take out the other 6.5 years of injuries and transfers and other little details, I think he'd be pretty excited, pretty proud. But I think he would be looking at it like, man, try to do well, do as well as you possibly can. Don't look at it, don't let the lights get too bright, and then you're starstruck. Like make sure you're actually doing what you're supposed to be doing. And that was my mindset for quite some time. Just enjoy what you're doing, but also make sure that you're utilizing it and not going to have a regret afterwards.
And do you think that getting onto the field for the Gators made your entire college career worth it, even if it was just
I think so.
a couple of drives?
I think so. I think I can look back at that, as long as I'm alive and see my college football career, if you will, in that light. And there was good times that I have with, a lot of my friends, and those were always, it makes that special. It makes college football special. But in the sense of actually being a player and having time to actually play and be on the field, definitely playing for the Gators was pretty special. And even going back to Houston and playing, I remember coming to the sideline and sitting on the bench with Jay Rose and just kind of laughing because it was late in the game and we knew we weren't going to probably win that game. We obviously want to play hard and play well, but just laughing, sitting next to him and talking with Vandy, and out of the huddle and stuff like that. It was just those were enjoyable times for me because you're with people that you love to be with, and you care for. And then there's the aspect of being a player and being actual, playing football. So
Do you have all three jerseys? Do you have all three of the jerseys?
I actually don't have. I have two NC State jerseys. I have both my Florida Gators jerseys. I have nothing from UConn, nothing
Nothing.
at all. I had reached out. I had said, hey, can I get my jersey? And I hope someone from UConn sees this because, by golly, I want one of my UConn jerseys, even if just Leon number 10 and navy blue with a Husky symbol. It doesn't have to be an official one. I just want something that I can kind of remember those seasons by.
Yeah, I would. You know what I wish when I transferred, I went back to get stuff out of my locker and it was all gone. And
Mm.
what I think about all the time that I wish I had was the locker room name tag. Remember, it was like the thick,
Yeah.
like plastic
Yep.
with our
With
picture
like
on it.
it's the picture of us with yeah.
Dude, I wish I had that. I
Yeah.
That's definitely long gone by now, but yeah, if I can get a jersey too, that'd be great. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks. I was
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
So now, your college career is over. You have exhausted every single year of eligibility. Um, it's time for the NFL. What were your prospects looking like after the season? Where did you go work, and how is that process like?
Yeah, so I'll try to summarize a good couple months. So even at Thanksgiving time, even before the season was over, I was going into my last week with Florida, and I was having conversations with like my family, my parents, saying like, what do I do after this? What's like the goal after this? And we had talked about, do I want to do pro day? And so first it was making the decision of like, okay, let's do pro day. So what does that mean to do pro day? I had a good friend of mine from NC State who's at the Broncos now. He just got traded to the Broncos. He's a punter for them. Was talking with him. This is closer to New Year's, and he said you need to make sure you have an agent. You need to make sure you do like the social media post. Make sure people know that you're trying to go into the draft, if you will. That they know you're doing pro day. So I had once talking with him, kind of signing an agent, doing like that kind of pre-draft process. I was like, okay, I need to actually put my efforts into something. I can't just kind of lollygag into this and expect something good to happen. So from January 9th, probably, I started training at Bommaritos down in Miami. I was down there with my quarterback coach, I'd mentioned, Eric Kresser. Started training with him and one of his proteges who's now kind of coaching with him, Kevin Anderson. And that was with Pete Bomarito. It's like doing their speed work. And I met Brennan Armstrong, who played at NC State. It was kind of, small world, little connection there. And was able to train with them for I guess 3 or 4 months leading into my pro day. Spent some good quality time. Kind of you figure out quickly what the NFL takes when you're training with guys that are also on that same path.
Yeah.
So it was really beneficial for me.
And then you get a call from the Miami Dolphins, which is my favorite team, actually.
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
Dolphins fan. I'm a huge Dolphins fan. So, what was that like, man? And what was like getting that call? And two, when you step onto the facility, into the locker room, was it just like, all right, I made it, I'm here?
Right, sure. So I had gotten. I want to try to make sure my timeline's here. So out of my pro day, there was maybe 28 teams there, something like that, 28 teams and a couple of the under teams. So my agent had reached out, I guess, to every coach that was there, just trying to see what the prospects were for me to join any of those teams, or at least have a workout with the team. And he had reached out to me and just said, "Hey, I got you the Miami, they call it the local pro day, like the Miami day." Right. So I went to that, worked out with the team, and I didn't expect much. They had 3 other guys there. They had want to make sure Mo Hassan. I don't know if you know him. He's the quarterback from USC. Went to Vanderbilt. Does like a podcast like this, does like the Bussin' with the Boys type podcast.
Nice.
He was there. Jacob Eason, who I think was just coming off like a Colts stint, was with there. Maybe the Giants. He was there, and another guy who I can't remember exactly who he was. But we all go there to work out, and it's like you're just throwing routes on there and trying your best to try to make a mark so people remember you. But I was like, you know what? They're probably not even looking at me. Let me just use it as a good time to throw as hard as I can and try to throw well. And I left that day was like just kind of blown away. Like, wow, I could actually be here. And the coaches seemed impressed, and I felt like I threw better than the other guys. Not saying I'm better than them, but just threw better than that day. So going into the draft before Miami had called, I was really hoping that Miami would take a shot, at least for rookie minicamp. So literally the Saturday, the last day before the draft had ended, my agent called me and said, "Hey, Miami's going to give you a call. Here's the guy's number." So I got a call from one of the admins at Miami and just said, "Hey, we're going to want to invite you," which it was pretty special. I probably should have kind of taken it in at the moment, but I was like, "Yeah, yeah, of course. I'm so excited. Can't wait to be down there." Yeah, it's pretty cool.
And your older brother was played for Alabama, right?
Yes, yes.
And did he get any shot in the NFL?
No, so he had finished his college career, if you will, his playing career early. He had transferred from Bama with kind of a shoulder injury that he got in practice, and just when he had transferred, he was going to Florida actually, and just kind of never went with anything, never kind of sought after that any longer. So once he transferred, he was kind of just finished. So
Is this the first Leon to make it into the NFL?
yeah, I guess you could call it that. If the mini camp's the NFL, then yeah, I guess so.
I've always said if I ever made it to a minicamp and I got a picture of me in an NFL uniform, forever in my bio, former NFL player.
No, that's probably honestly, you're probably right. I probably should look at it a little bit in a better light, but yeah.
But yeah, man. But like, were you nervous? Going to the facility and stuff like that, or did you like take it in more?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I've always been kind of a nervous player. But day one, like showing up that Thursday for meetings, there's that initial team meeting, and then you get broken up into your offensive position, stuff like that. But just driving down there, I'm a local kid, so it took me like an hour to drive down there. But that entire ride, I'm just praying to myself, just like, man, like what's gonna be like, what's happening. Finally, when you're there, you're kind of just like shell shocked a little bit. A lot of big names like Mike McDaniel's comes and leads your team meeting, and that's someone who has a little bit of power behind their name. So I was definitely pretty nervous, even into the before the first practice started. Just trying to make sure the offense is, you actually know what's going on, and the vernacular it's insane. I mean, the amount of words that they say in an offensive play is just crazy. And they actually tried to trick us a little bit. They would say, hold on, can you still see me?
Yeah, yeah, I got you.
Okay, sorry. Mike had like written out plays for us for our walkthrough, and then was like, "All right, I'm gonna radio in, and you guys just have to repeat after me, and then call it in the huddle." So we're in there. We have like the mics in our helmets. You sit there like this. So the entire walkthrough, we're all like me and the other guy. His name is I don't remember his name. Gavin Hardison, that's his name. We're all like we're in the huddle, like trying to remember what he's saying. Like, okay, it's like north, northwest, north, left. Like trying to just like repeat what he's saying. Like obviously we had no chance for practice. It was going to be even crazier. We had like a 24 play script and there was no chance. So we go out for stretch lines right before the practice is about to start, and he comes by and gives us all play cards for our wrist, which is like the entire play sheet. So we didn't have to remember anything. They just want us to all be nervous and be like extra on edge going into the practice. So it actually ended up working out to be a lot easier than we expected. So
Well, the Dolphins' offense is super complicated anyway.
oh crazy. Oh crazy. Yeah, it's insane.
They can I get a little insider information? How do you think we're going to be this year? Please tell. Can we win a
So
playoff game?
okay, so I've been telling a lot of people the mentality in their or I guess organization you can call it, or just in the building. It's great. I mean, from day one, Mike McDaniel sets the board straight, if you will, that everybody is either here to help you win a Super Bowl or a deep playoff run, or you're not there. And they make sure that the money follows that. I'm sure they're going to pay Tua in the same way, like how the contract they gave him. That it's, I mean, everybody is all for that. So I've told anybody I've talked to, I think they're going to have a good year.
Well, Jay Rose, if you're talking to him, he's a huge Dolphins fan.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he's a little lifetime Dolphins fan.
I got my thing right here. It's my like little Dolphins thing.
Yeah, there you go.
But dude, yeah, man, I'm praying that the mentality has changed because it's just been so bad for so long, like 20 my
Yeah,
whole lifetime. They never even won a playoff game.
yeah, yeah.
But you mentioned you were praying going down there, and you mentioned faith in your interviews and stuff. So I just want to ask you, man, how important is faith to you, and how important is your faith?
I guess it would be whatever to say it's everything, but it really is. It's everything. It's how my entire life is structured. So I spend, every morning reading my devotional, reading my Bible and prayer. and in the evening time too. And obviously, I'm not as disciplined as I like to be. So there's times when I would like to be a little bit better. But my entire playing career, my parents kind of instilled that in me that my goal is to honor God with my play, and that He's given me the ability to actually be able to play football. So I should use that to my furthest extent. And it's why I can have so much joy when I play, even when I had, bad injuries and season-ending injuries that might, affect other guys differently. That I could always have joy, and because it was never the end for me. If football finally does wrap up at some point, and whether it's soon or whether it's later, I can still be at peace and still have a lot of joy. So,
That's awesome, man. And Tim Tebow, growing up in Florida, watching the Gators. I mean, Tim
oh
Tebow is
yeah,
literally the spokesperson for this.
exactly. Yeah, I emulate a lot of his stuff and just his charisma towards football and the passion that he had when he played. That was definitely a goal for me to be someone that people looked at in that same way.
Yeah, I think my aunt actually lives in Jacksonville, and
Oh,
and she's like lives pretty close to where he is, and
yeah,
I think she goes to like his church. I think it's like 1122 or something like that, but it's a big church down there in Jacksonville, and sometimes he goes there and does like he is the pastor or something, or gives a sermon or something like that.
right. Little speaking events. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. And a couple more things here, but when we wrap this up, but I don't know if you watch any Barstool or anything like that. They do like a Mount Rushmore of stuff, and
Okay. Okay.
I kind of wanted to do a little Mount Rushmore. We can kind of go back and forth here, and we're both walk-ons.
Yeah.
We were both, we know
Right.
how that lifestyle is. So I kind of
Right.
want to do like the Mount Rushmore of like walk-on things. All right, and I'll go
Okay.
first. So I'll say
Yeah.
one, and we'll kind of go back and forth. I'm gonna say getting a bad number, like getting just a terrible number. I know
Ooh.
for you was a little
Okay.
different because you're a quarterback, so you're always getting a low number.
Right.
Dude, I've been through number.
Right. I have a limit on that one.
Yeah, I've been number 49. I was number 90. Like just garbage, dude. Garbage. No swagger.
Yeah. Boy, the walk on, let's see, a walk on Mount Rushmore. Getting pulled out of your meeting to go to your scout team meeting. And like my freshman sophomore year, when you're like in the middle of an install and the scout team coach comes like, "Hey Mike, can I grab you?" And then you go to it's like some lounge, it's not even a meeting room, with some TV that they kind of like had rigged up to some wires, and then you're watching whatever the play is for this year. You're like, man, this is crazy.
Yeah, people don't understand that like when you're on scout team out of Power Five, you're on a completely different team. You're actually not even like
Oh
you're in
yeah.
a
Yeah.
different film room. Like you're not even with anybody.
You don't even know what's going on. If you're on the offense side of the ball, you don't know what the install is for the week. You're just hoping that you have some idea come game time.
Yeah, it's none at all. I'm gonna say having to like harass photographers to get a picture of you. Like, can I get any picture of
Oh
me
yeah.
anywhere?
Yeah. I think depending on where you are, like if you're with a big name guy, like in your position group, sometimes you get the one where it's like the shot of them and you're in the background. That was like my sophomore year, my freshman year. I remember just like hoping they got a picture of Finley and I could be in the back or making a throw or something like that. Yeah. Um, I mean, equipment always has to be brought up. But if I remember freshman year coming in, being like, boy, I hope I get a good pair of pads and a good, like, just a usable helmet. And fortunately, I had like the new helmet because everyone has the new helmet now. But man, my pads were ginormous. I'm wearing like lineman pads, asking for smaller pads. Like, no, you don't worry about that. Just like completely push me to the side. But that's top up there for sure.
I was kind of going to say something along those lines. It was just being disrespected by like the equipment, like
Oh
just
yeah,
disrespect by like everyone that like
yeah.
everyone basically just disrespected. Like if I needed an extra pair of gloves, I was not getting an extra pair of gloves. I was
Oh yeah,
look,
socks, shirts, anything like that.
nothing at all. And then I'll do one more here. Oh, what was it here? It was this was actually kind of a plus depending on how you look at it, but not traveling, and then
Hey,
you get that free weekend.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that, like you said, it is kind of a plus. And I remember like when I would go and we'd watch Chubb. Chubb was playing versus FSU. It was an away game that my freshman season. So me and my friends went down to the beach. We're sitting at some restaurant watching the game. NC State's winning, so we're all stoked. But it had like a nice weekend at the beach. Didn't have to worry about anything until they got back. So, but the bad part is when they travel and they lose. So if you're not traveling with the squad, everyone just comes back depressed, and you had nothing to do with it, but you get like the reaps of everything of that.
Dude,
Yeah.
you're just depressed for no reason the next day. You have no like
Oh yeah.
emotional attachment at all. Everyone's just pissed off and sad. And then
Yeah.
but then you also get those like 6 a.m. like Friday lifts.
Yeah. Oh, right. Before the team travels, or if they go to the hotel or whatever. That's true. I forgot about those before like the practice starts. Yeah.
And
Those
then
were actually brutal too, man. The coach would kill you for those.
kill you. And I remember, do you remember Noel Browse? Browse. Do you remember him?
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
this is like a key core memory of mine. Me and him went out on Thursday to like Tav or something. Dude, we got pretty we were pretty banged up. And the
Hmm.
next morning we had a we I probably went to bed at like 2 or 3. And the next morning we had to go and we looked at each other and we were just pale. And I was like, damn, dude, this is not it.
Oh yeah, that's brutal. And honestly, that's probably what they were for. They're like, man, we hope we can just catch some guys that just like didn't do the right thing the night before. That's how it is. That's like every strength coach's dream. They're just hoping for someone to come in like a little bit hungover, not enough sleep, something, because they'll kill you with that workout.
Oh man, that was great. And then, do you have one more you want to add?
Boy, I guess the last thing I would add is when people asked you where you were on the depth chart, and you're as a walk on, you're like, boy, fifth, sixth string. Honestly, I don't even know what to tell you. I mean, I play in practice, like I'm catching the ball, I'm doing stuff in scout team, but I don't know what to tell you.
I'm just here for a good time.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah,
I used to say I don't play for him. I'm just on the team. I'm just
yeah.
helping
I
out.
just help them. I just help them out.
And then just last question, man. You played 7 years of college football, and then the year you leave, they make the college football video game.
Yeah,
What are your feel? Are you pissed about that? I'd be pretty pissed.
yeah, I mean, I had like the last little thing they had to tug away from me is I signed my little EA contract that I got through, post game right as I'm leaving Florida. I signed it probably in January when the game's like officially going to be coming out. So I sign it. It's like says, you're going to get $600 in a free game. And I'm like, wow, I'm telling everybody I'm with, I'm like, man, that's so crazy. I could actually be in the game. And then, the game comes out whenever this was last month sometime. And I'm like, I'm waiting. Someone had played it, at my work, and I was like, hey, did you check out Florida? Am I in roster? Am I anywhere? He's like, nah, sorry, man. I was like, well, and I was like, well, good, I didn't get paid, but bad, I'm not in the game. So I'm a little bit disappointed, but I've already made my player and road to glory, so I'm having a good season this year.
That's good to hear, man. That's good to hear. Yeah, I know. It was close. It was like right on. They announced it in January, you're right? But I always thought about that. I was like, dude, that's gotta suck.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But hey, we're in it anyways. Road to glory. That is.
Exactly,
Hey, man.
exactly.
Micah, thank you, man, for stopping by live with Tim O'Shea, man. I appreciate it. It was an honor having you, dude.
Yeah, thank you. It was a lot of fun. Thanks.
Wanna hear you go.